The aardvark might look like a mashup of leftover animal parts, but don't let that fool you. Pig snout, rabbit ears, kangaroo tail, claws like a little bear. Nature really went freestyle here, and for that reason, most people don't take the aardvark seriously. But here's the twist. This so-called oddball is one of Africa's most brilliantly adapted survivors. Hello wild vibers, Vibes of a Wildlife here. Welcome to another video where we dive into the heart, humor, and unexpected life lessons from the animal kingdom. Now think about this. While the lions roar, the elephants steal the spotlight, the aardvark has been quietly thriving for millions of years. It doesn't need a crowd, it doesn't need flash. It wins by being patient, resilient, and smarter than it looks. And in a world obsessed with the loudest voice in the room, that kind of survival deserves some respect. So today, we're digging into the secrets of the aardvark, its quirks, its resilience, and the lessons it's got waiting for us. And trust me, by the end, you'll see why you should never sleep on the aardvark. But before we get started, hit that like button, share it with a friend who could use a reminder that being underestimated is a superpower, and subscribe so you don't miss the next wild dive. Think of it as your survival kit for staying curious. Let's get into it. Looking at this animal, you can't help but think, what was nature cooking when it made this one? That's the aardvark. At first glance, it looks like somebody raided the spare parts bin. It's got a pig snout, rabbit ears, a tail that wouldn't look out of place on a kangaroo, and claws that could belong to a little bear. It's the kind of animal that makes you tilt your head and laugh a little, like, wait, this is real? But here's the kicker. Every single one of those features are there for a reason. That long snout, perfectly engineered for sniffing out ants and termites hidden underground. Those rabbit-like ears, they're not just cute, they can pick up the faintest sounds of danger. The tail, thick and muscular, balances its body while it digs. And those claws, they're survival tools, turning this quirky mashup into a powerhouse underground engineer. What looks like a Frankenstein experiment is actually a survival masterpiece. And here's a shocker most people don't realize. This oddball isn't some tiny critter. Aardvarks can stretch up to 7 feet from snout to tail, stand almost 2 feet tall at the shoulder, and weigh as much as a grown human. This isn't a little side character. It's a heavyweight digger built like a tank. Now, here's where it gets very interesting. A lot of people lump aardvarks in with pigs, anteaters, or even armadillos, just because they share a couple of features. But the truth? The aardvark is in a class of its own, literally. Scientists had to give it its very own order, Tubelid Intata, which, simply put, means tube tooth. Their teeth aren't like ours at all. They don't have enamel. Instead, they're made up of thousands of tiny tubes of dentine. And here's the wow factor. Those teeth keep growing for life, constantly wearing down and rebuilding as the aardvark slurps up millions of insects. No braces, no cavities, just an endless self-repairing set of chompers. Imagine brushing your teeth and they just grew back forever. That's the aardvark superpower. No one else in the animal kingdom has teeth like that. And to me, that's the beauty of it. We're so quick to compare things, to fit them into a category, that we miss the point. The aardvark doesn't need a box. It's proof that you can be one of one and thrive. While lions get the spotlight and elephants get the reverence, the aardvark shows that sometimes the quietest survivor is the strongest. So if this animal is already breaking the mold with how it looks, imagine what it can do. And maybe that's the life lesson tucked under those long ears. Being underestimated can be the greatest strength of all. Odd isn't a flaw, it's a strategy. The aardvark proves that odd can outlast ordinary. When the sun goes down, and most of the savannah calls it a night, that's when the aardvark clocks in. This animal is a true night shift worker. By day, you won't catch it. It's cooling off deep in its burrow. But once darkness falls, it steps out into the open, and that's where its real strengths come alive. And there's a reason it hunts at night. First, Africa's sun isn't just hot, it's punishing. With that thick skin and digging lifestyle, an aardvark out in the daytime heat will run out of energy real quick. So it flips the script, saving its power for the cooler, quieter hours. Second, its favorite food, ants and termites, are most active at night. That's when the insect world is buzzing, and the aardvark knows it. It's not wandering aimlessly, it's showing up right on time for nature's midnight buffet. Now here's where it gets even more wild. Imagine sticking your tongue into a raging termite mound. That's a nightmare for most animals, but not the aardvark. Its skin is thick and tough enough to handle ant bites and termite jaws, and that long, sticky tongue is coated with protective saliva. In other words, it's built for bug warfare. While other animals will be scratching and flinching, the aardvark just keeps slurping, thousands of insects disappearing in minutes. And patience is its secret weapon. The aardvark isn't flashy, it doesn't chase, it doesn't waste energy. It waits, it sniffs, and when the time is right, it strikes with quiet precision. In a world that celebrates speed and noise, the aardvark proves that slow, deliberate, and unbothered can still dominate. So no, it may not roar like a lion or sprint like a cheetah, but under cover of night, it's efficient, focused, and untouchable. And if that's not a survival strategy worth respecting, I don't know what is. So, if this so-called oddball can own the night on its own terms, just wait until you see what it does underground. If the night is where the aardvark eats, the underground is where it truly shines. You could call it one of Africa's best construction workers. With claws like heavy-duty shovels and a body built low and strong, the aardvark can dig through tough soil faster than you'd believe. In fact, if a predator is chasing it, an aardvark can vanish underground and carve out an escape tunnel in under 10 minutes. That's not just digging, that's engineering under pressure. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Those burrows aren't just home for aardvarks. They're prime real estate on the savannah. Warthogs, porcupines, jackals, wild dogs, hyenas, even snakes and lizards. They all line up for a shot at that underground shelter. And sometimes, they don't wait for the aardvark to leave. A bigger, tougher animal can force it out and claim the burrow for itself. Imagine building your dream home only to have someone else move in before the paint dries. That's the kind of neighborhood drama aardvarks deal with. But the aardvark doesn't fight it. It just moves on and digs another. And honestly, that says something about resilience. While other animals waste energy squabbling, the aardvark simply rebuilds, stronger and deeper. As if to say, you can have that one, I'll just make another. That ability to start fresh, again and again, is its quiet superpower. And here's the ripple effect. Those abandoned burrows go on to save lives. They shelter warthogs from lions, give hyenas a place to raise their young, and even act as cool refuges in the blazing African heat. The aardvark may not roar for attention, but its presence shapes an entire ecosystem. Sometimes the strongest impact you make isn't in holding on to something, it's in creating something others can build on after you. So if the aardvark can reshape a landscape with nothing but claws, patience, and persistence, imagine the kind of resilience it takes to hold that role for millions of years. For an animal that keeps such a low profile, the aardvark has one of the widest ranges in Africa. You'll find it in grasslands, woodlands, scrub, and savannas. Basically anywhere it can dig and sniff out termites. It doesn't need a herd or pack to back it up. Just a patch of land, a burrow, and an insect buffet. That kind of independence is rare, and it's powerful. And here's the wild part. The aardvark isn't just surviving in the present, it's a survivor from the past. Its family line stretches back more than 20 million years. Entire dynasties of animals have come and gone. Saber-toothed cats, giant sloths, ancient elephants, and the aardvark is still here, quietly doing its thing. It's the last living member of its order, Tubolid Tata. That makes it a living fossil, walking proof that sometimes the oddballs are the ones who last the longest. How has it managed to hold on? By adapting. Aardvarks live in a world full of predators, lions, leopards, hyenas, even pythons, and yet they rarely end up as dinner. Why? Because every quirk doubles as a defense strategy. That thick, tough skin doesn't just shrug off termite bites, it can also withstand a predator's swipe long enough for the aardvark to dig an escape tunnel. Those powerful claws, perfect for tearing into the ground at record speed when danger is close. And its burrows aren't just homes, they're fortresses, giving it a safe retreat when the savannah gets hostile. Even its nocturnal habits are part of the plan. By hunting at night, the aardvark avoids many of its biggest threats, slipping into the open when most predators are less active. And if trouble does show up, it dives underground and disappears. That combination of timing, toughness, and patience is why it's still here when so many of its ancient neighbors are long gone. And that's the bigger picture. Survival isn't about being the strongest on the block. It's about knowing your environment, adapting your quirks, and finding smart ways to outlast the odds. The aardvark has been underestimated for millions of years, but it's proof that resilience doesn't always roar. Sometimes it digs, sometimes it hides, and sometimes it just means having thick skin, literally and figuratively. So the blows of life don't knock you out before you have a chance to move forward. So if this so-called leftover parts animal can dodge lions, hyenas, and extinction itself, maybe there's something in that story for us too. So what do we take away from the aardvark? Simple. Being underestimated isn't a weakness, it's a strategy. This animal doesn't roar, it doesn't strut, it doesn't need a spotlight. It survives because it knows its quirks are strengths: thick skin, patient habits, underground retreats. These aren't oddities, they're superpowers. And if an aardvark can outlast lions, hyenas, and millions of years of change just by leaning into what makes it unique, then maybe we can too. So, if you enjoyed this deep dive into the underestimated survivor of Africa, go ahead, hit that like button. Share this with someone who could use a reminder that different doesn't mean weak. And subscribe so you don't miss the next adventure into the heart, humor, and unexpected life lessons from the animal kingdom. With that said, thanks for watching. And until next time, remember, never sleep on the oddballs, because they might just be the ones still standing when the dust settles.